Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I want to welcome you to the reinvestment zone number 3 for downtown Corpus Christi. My name is Mike Pusley. I want to call this meeting to order. And Stephanie, if you would call a roll, please.
Good morning. Chairman Mike Pusley.
Here.
Board members Roland Barrera.
Here.
Sylvia Campos. Here. Rudy Garza. Here. Paulette Guajardo. Present. Gil Hernandez.
Here.
Michael Hunter.
Here.
Jim Klein.
Here.
Everett Roy.
Present.
Connie Scott. Here. James Sedgwick.
Here.
Dan Suckley, we're going to try to get him on virtually, but we're not there yet.
Okay.
And Peter Zanoni.
Present.
All right,
Whoa.
a quorum of the board is present to conduct the meeting.
Yeah. Good job.
Extra present.
Okay. We're ready to go. Did we have anyone signed up for public comment or anyone like to make public comment? Now's your chance. Okay, I don't see anybody, so we're good to go. We'll move to item D, the minutes. Are there any changes for the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It passes. Item D1, E2 will be the financial report. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning, Heather Hurlbert, Assistant Director of Finance. I'm sorry, not Assistant Director of Finance, Assistant City Manager, Interim Director of Finance. And Assistant
We promoted
Director.
you here.
I know, darn it. It's a lot of hats right now. Assistant City Manager. So we'll have the financial statements for the 6 month ended April 30th, 2024. So the fund did begin the year with a $7.9 million fund balance going into fiscal year 24. Revenues year to date are 3.1, almost $3.2 million. We are running a little bit below some of the values did come in less after some of the appeals came in less after the certified values, and we think that this fund actually will settle in maybe about $600,000 less than what was budgeted. Expenditures year to date are $878,000, leaving an ending fund balance of $10.2 million. There are $13.2 million in commitments, but that is over the next several years, and so even though that number does look a little scary with the negative, we continue to have revenue on an annual basis, and we have ensured that based off of estimated revenues across the out to fiscal year 28, which is when the TIRZ expires, that all commitments should be able to be covered. So looking at that cash flow, so again, this gives you an idea of what the revenue is expected. We do maintain when we run these cash flows, we keep those revenues flat just because we aren't guaranteed an increase in revenue. We have the incentives there shown on when they will be paid out. We continue with our admin and other expenses at a flat level, not including special projects, and that is your estimated fund balance at the end of each year. So do note, though, that the TIRZ does expire at the end of 28, and one of the things we are talking about internally staff with the Downtown Management District is bringing something forward within the next year to go ahead and extend that TIRZ out. We continue to have incentives coming forward, and so we want to make sure that we can do that and have those longer terms guaranteed. So looking at the different commitments that we do have, this is the list of the projects that have commitments under our project-specific development program. Our commitments under the Targeted Vacant Property Improvement Program, commitments under the Downtown Living Initiative Program, commitments under the Commercial Finish Out Program, commitments under the Streetscape and Safety Improvements Program, and commitments under the Rooftop Activation Program. So that does conclude my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Okay. Board members, questions? Anybody? Yeah, Rudy, go ahead.
Yeah, just a question here. $600,000.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Trust me, none of us do.
We're $600,000 off of what we projected we were going to get this year, budgeted in terms of revenue.
Yes.
And going forward, we're still taking the same number as we budgeted last year, which was over what we received.
Uh-huh.
So is that, I'm thinking, is that the most conservative approach, or should we back that number down?
We can go ahead and adjust that. Like I said, we stick with that budgeted number, and we can go ahead, now that we're further into the year, we can adjust that down. But yeah, we can do that. But we still have sufficient fund balance to cover what is needed to be covered, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you. I understand Board Member Suckley has joined us by phone, so we're good there. If there's nothing else on the financial report, we'll move. Alyssa, do we need an executive session, or we don't? Okay, then we'll move to item G3. Ms. Barrera? Ms. Barrera Mason, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Good morning, Chairman, board members. Elizabeth Mason, Executive Director of the Downtown Management District. The item we have before you is a motion to approve a downtown development agreement with Mayor Enterprises for the improvements located at 621 North Chaparral Street for a total incentive amount not to exceed $16,500. And we have a short presentation here for you. This is for a business known as Mully's. Mully's has been in operation for over 24 years at their downtown location. They've made a variety of investments over the past 24 years at a value of probably $180,000. We have Amos McPherson and Casey, the general manager, here with us in the audience as well. An item that has not been improved and is often an issue of contention with commercial leases is the HVAC system. So with our commercial finish out program that we have authorized for businesses that have been in operation more than 10 years, we're recommending an incentive to assist them in the renovation and the replacement of their HVAC system. In a lot of leases, like office leases and residential leases, those are things provided by the landlord, but in commercial leases, it is on the tenant to make those improvements, and sometimes because of that kind of contention, it's not something that gets done right away. So here the cost for the renovation of the HVAC system is $55,000, and we're recommending a $16,500 reimbursement to support them in that improvement. So here you can see some photos of the improvements done at Mully's. So they've done the floors, paint, roof. They've made improvements to the bar. And you can see the HVAC system's just very worn and in dire need of upgrades. So that is what we were recommending. Our program does authorize $10 a square foot, and this is a 4,000 square foot space. But because of our overall 30% cap on incentives, the cap we're recommending is $16,500. And with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you.
I move for approval.
Okay, Mayor? I think you were first, Mayor. Go right ahead. And yeah,
Sorry.
I don't have control of it. It's not on my panel.
Okay. All right. So I just want, here, I'll speak this way. So I just want to thank, I know Amos is sitting back there, and I just want to thank you for your investment. I want to thank you for believing in Corpus Christi, because this is the first time we've seen you here before us, and we welcome you here. This is what this program is about. It's about, you know, facilitating and empowering our small businesses here in Corpus Christi, but obviously downtown is huge, because you've seen the growth. I mean, 24 years, I think you said. So thank you, Amos, and thank you for being here as well. We appreciate your investment.
And I do want to add, Amos has also redone and opened Old Crest Live next door with no incentive, so we felt it was due time to provide some support for his enterprises.
Awesome. Okay. Board Member Roy.
That's all right.
You got it? Good. Anybody else? We have a motion and a second. I'll entertain a vote, please. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, presentations, H4. Alyssa? All right, Heather, you're going to handle this one?
I will handle this one,
Okay.
yes. Actually, it'll be a joint effort.
Okay.
I will handle the budgeting part of it, and then Alyssa will be available to answer questions on any of the new programs that are coming forward. going into looking at our budget for the downtown TIRZ number 3. So we are expecting that we will, so the chart here that you're looking at starts with our fiscal year 23 actuals on the left-hand side, runs through our original budgeted amount for 24, what the amended budget is for 24, what the estimated actuals are for 24, and then what the proposed budget is for 25. So what the numbers that we're walking through today will be the basically the base budget. So whether those are recurring items, contractual items, or our standard project budget will reflect in the budget and the numbers that I present today, and then we will have additional requests that are being proposed by the Downtown Management District for the use of TIRZ funds. And so those are not included yet. As we get feedback on that, then as we come back in July, we'll show what those look like and how it affects the budget. So looking at our revenues, like I said, we are estimated that we will be down on the revenue for this year between the 3 different taxing entities. So it is budgeted at 4.1 million. We think we're going to come in about 3.6 million, but for next year, we are proposing a budget based about $4 million, almost $4.1 million, based off of the preliminary tax rolls that we received in April. Looking at this, a couple of years ago, we changed the methodology in how we budget for our incentives. It used to be that we had specific dollar amounts appropriate assigned to each program, but what we found is that that would really limit how we can award incentive agreements. And so a couple of years ago, we moved to budgeting a set $750,000, and then that can be allocated to any of these programs. So the Downtown Management District has the ability to be able to respond to those applications that come in and not be tied to a specific dollar amount for each program type. So coming into this year, we do have prior year commitments. So in addition to the $750,000 that will be budgeted for new incentive agreements, there will be $5.9 million that will be budgeted for existing commitments that will be paid in fiscal year 25. And so those are lined out here. We have about $49,000 under the commercial finish out program, $116,000 for the downtown living initiative, $2.3 million for the streetscape and safety improvements, $1.3, almost $1.4 million for the targeted vacant, that should be vacant, not vacation, property improvements, vacation properties too, $261,000 for project-specific development, and then $1 million for the rooftop activation. So as we know, with all of our programs, sometimes those timelines can slip, but these are what we are anticipating to pay out in 25. So then in addition to that, we have these other programs. We have the Downtown Vacant Building Program, parking upgrades, traffic and planning analysis, and right-of-way. And so those are the amounts that we budget usually on an annual basis for those programs. And then we work with the DMD on bringing programs forward for consideration under those line items. So looking at our proposed expenses, again, walking from the left to the right for fiscal year 23 actuals, the fiscal year 24 original budget, the fiscal year 24 amended budget, the fiscal year 24 estimated actuals, and then a fiscal year 25 proposed budget. So these are the amounts that we anticipate spending within fiscal year 24. This amount continues to update continues to be refined as we work with the Downtown Management District on when we think projects are going to complete, and also on the special project initiatives that they have coming forward. So we are looking at, based off the commitments and the $750,000 for new programs, $3.7 million in expenses for fiscal year 25. And then actually, that's for those programs. And then going into the next page, these are additional programs here. Like I said, the commitments along with some of those set programs, and then the special one-time projects, which we'll go into a little bit more, and then the transfer to the general fund. So it's a total of $8 million estimated that will be budgeted for in fiscal year 25. So part of our expenses is the contract with the DMD for the management of the TIRZ. And so this is a breakdown of what is contained within that contract. It is an $875,000 contract for the year. That includes $451,000 for personnel, $277,000 for the clean team contract, and then other operational expenses that are necessary for the DMD to operate and continue managing the TIRZ. So in addition to the $875,000, there is also another $100,000 that is provided to the Downtown Management District for kind of one-off type projects. So those include right-of-way projects. So if there's curb painting or if there's improvements that need to be done that are smaller jobs, they utilize this money for that. In addition, we have $50,000 for park projects. So as they go through and do little projects in the park, they're able to utilize kind of these buckets of funding, and that money is immediately available to them instead of having to expend and then reimburse. And then in addition to that, the contract and the $100,000, there is an additional $400,000 that comes from the general fund. So the city does match the assessment of the Downtown Management District. So just a reminder, the Downtown Management District is a taxing entity and does levy taxes on those properties within the Downtown Management District boundaries. And so they collect about $300,000 in taxes. We haven't gotten that updated number yet for this year. Years back, the general fund, the city did agree to match that assessment. In addition, there is $100,000 that is budgeted for bike patrol, and that program was started several years ago too. I believe it's before COVID, to provide additional security downtown. So in addition to the $875,000 contract, there is an additional $500,000 worth of funding that is for the benefit of and for the use of the Downtown Management District in relation to the management of the TIRZ. So every year we have projects that are brought forward for consideration by the Downtown Management District to benefit the TIRZ. These are the projects that were requested last year, and then the kind of the status on them. And so the reason why we're showing this is that you will see in our budget, we had $1.7 million budgeted. Right now we're estimated to spend about $700,000 or $800,000 of that, and then we will either roll the funds into the next fiscal year or rebudget within the next fiscal year for some of these projects. And so going down them, there were several projects that the DMD brought forward for consideration that, due to other things that were going on, like the Marina Master Plan and some of those other things, they are choosing not to move forward with those projects, and we'll bring those back at a later date. We have several things that are pending approval or pending council approval to award the contract, and they are also anticipated to be awarded in Q4. And then we have transferred the $750,000 for the Water Street project. That is for design of the street portion of the Water Street project, in addition to the utilities. And I believe the website design build out is almost complete. So that one is almost complete. And so we have a lot of stuff that we hope will be coming to completion at the end of Q4, or the contracts will be awarded for it. And then these are the additional projects that the DMD is requesting for the TIRZ funding in fiscal year 25. And I think at this point, I will turn it over to Alyssa to talk about what those projects are and the reasoning behind the request.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, so the projects that we are looking at proposing for FY25 include ADA improvements, Illuminando tree light replacement on Chaparral Street, a downtown safety program, park sound installation, and the resurfacing of Taylor Street. ADA improvements, this is based on an audit that we conducted actually in 2023. We found 55 locations and 94 corrections. It's a very large scope of work, so we actually broke it up into 5 phases. We got estimates for the first phase, and we're recommending to move forward with the improvement of the phase that kind of crosses Man Street. You can see that we're estimating about $1 million in those improvements to be conducted, for the improvements to be done, I believe, in-house, or in-house or third party? Through the engineering department, third party with the engineering department. And then we went ahead and just plotted those improvements and the respective costs and the detail of the improvement to be made on a separate map so that you could have a little bit more detail of the improvements. So you can see it includes things like install 2 ramps, install a crosswalk, relocate a fire hydrant. Generally, we're trying to have 3 to 5 feet of passable space for anyone on wheels. So this could be for somebody in a wheelchair, somebody pushing a stroller, even pedestrians running. There are certain areas that don't have a sidewalk at all. So our downtown run club, we have a large number of people coming and running every Wednesday night, and in some areas they have to run into the street because there is no sidewalk there. So we're wanting to make those improvements and systematically go through the entire downtown Marina Arts District, make sure it's all connected for aging populations and people of all abilities. So this is our first phase and attempt at getting that implemented. The next phase, or the next project we have is a Luminando tree lighting replacement. This was a project that was originally funded by Corpus Christi Medical Center with the leadership of the mayor, who helped set us up with that partner in order to make this happen. We did launch this in July of 2021. The lights have to be replaced every 3 years or else they'll grow into the trees. So we did have a type of light that was able to expand, but we knew that we were gonna have to replace this every 3 years. So this has actually made tremendous impact on perceptions of safety downtown. It was featured in the International Downtown Association's best practices for public spaces, which was really phenomenal. And I think we get a lot of really great feedback about the improvements that this made to Chaparral Street, because if you recall, it was very dark and very sketchy to walk around. So we think this is a worthwhile improvement to maintain, and we would appreciate being able to upgrade it so those trees can continue to grow in a healthy manner.
Listen, before you move on.
Yes, sir.
Before we move on from that, so where are we on our, and I appreciate the tree lighting, that's a great thing. It's aesthetically very pleasing and provides a bit of lighting for security, but where are we at on our street light initiative? I know we talked about that a number of times, and it seems like we're stuck in the mud on that. Have we made any progress on that, or where are we at?
So we're continuing to work through that. So we've had a challenge with the fact that just it was originally budgeted for in 2018, and then the amount that is available to be able to do those upgrades has, the buying power has diminished. We continue to work with Alyssa in engineering. That is actually one of my goals for the fourth quarter, is to get that finally moving forward and deciding. So we've had conversations on, do we choose a small area and improve that and then try to work out from a point? Is it additional lighting? Is it replacement of just the lighting bulbs that are down there? The challenge we have is a lot of that equipment is in, I won't say disrepair, it's just old. And so a lot of the poles have been cracking and they need to be replaced, and then you get into a lot more expense. So we're trying to figure out the best way to put that money to use and get the most impact.
Okay, so is this a project that's going to be, are these AEP poles that we're?
Yes.
And so we're going to do a partnership deal with AEP again of some sort?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we really need to focus on that.
Okay.
I think that's really important for our downtown area. And
sure.
I get comments from people all the time about, hey, it's really nice down there, but the streets are dark, and so that really adds a lot of goodwill for the people who are trying to utilize the improvements that we're making.
Sure. Like I said, it's still on our active list, and we are still continuing. We just haven't settled on what the best way to put that money to use is. So.
Okay, so crack the whip over somebody's head. Let's get the thing moving. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Right. I'm sorry, Alyssa. Thank you. Yes. Okay. It's not on my screen, so just yell out, and I'll.
Am I on?
No, it's I'm on. Okay, going with that, and Peter, I think we had an initiative to replace a lot of lights with LED lights. Did that not include downtown?
It did include, yes, it did include downtown. This light project was more of a pedestrian lighting project. So any light bulb that existed, with the exception of some that belonged to the state, that were high pressure sodium, the yellow glowing lights, those were replaced with this initiative with the LED light.
Right, so we're going to change it from the yellow to a more brighter white light, so we should be able to get more out of that. So what happened there?
So that was done downtown as well. This project, Heather can explain, but this is for additional lighting or replacement of those little.
The acorn light, exactly. So the LED replacement that we went through was for what they call the Cobra head lights. So those are the larger, higher street lights. And so those have been changed out. What this one is referring to is downtown, we have the specialized lighting that have like the acorn lights on top. And so this is outside of that original scope. And so it's looking at those versus the high-level street lighting.
Okay, so this is completely separate from that. All right.
Yes.
Completely different, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Board Member Guajardo?
Thank you. So this is a 2018 bond project,
Yes.
and it's been 6 years.
Yes.
So for our next meeting, Heather, we hired an engineer. So can you bring back, let's move something forward between now and next month so that we can, I think what's essential here is that you guys work with AEP. That was part of it, I remember, you know, 4 years back.
Sure.
In choosing what land was to be used. I don't know what conversations have been had with them, but I think between now and then, if you can bring us back something so we move forward.
Sure.
And also let us know, what was the engineering? What was that? Was it math? Who was it that did it? Do you recall?
No, I don't know that we have an engineer. I know we have a light, and it was in-house, yes.
It was in-house, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. But either way, there's been work done. It's been 6 years, so let's, by the next meeting, let's have something moving forward. Like, we're going to move forward in this way and that way, or whatever it is, just so that we can get this project moving.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Anybody else? Yeah, Board Member. Yes, Campos. Please.
Thank you.
Please move ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Oh, we are loud.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad that we are on the lighting. And I really do think that it is special the way the trees are. They're like amber. They're not super bright. It's just enough lighting. But I was thinking instead of the traditional lighting with the, that AEP has, do we ever do like the string lights across? Or do we only do string lights like during like fiestas or?
So there are limitations regarding the right-of-way and the way that we can obstruct the right-of-way. So in some downtowns, they have enough existing building kind of massing and infrastructure that, and the buildings are high enough that you can string it from one building to another. In ours, we don't necessarily have that. So we do it whenever we close a street. If that's something that this board wants us to give the direction to explore more, we can. But I know there's certain height requirements that we'd have to meet. And so it's not something that we've been able to figure out from a regulation standpoint yet.
That's disappointing, because I mean, like, what kind of vehicles are, because I don't see it.
Delivery trucks. So the main concern is.
Yeah, really? And we don't have the height to just let the lights, because I think I remember back in the day, we used to have lighting, because I've seen old pictures of, like during Christmas time where we would have the decorations, but that's about the only time.
Yes, yeah. Well, we can certainly look into that. I mean, it is something aesthetically that we find very pleasant as well, which is why we do it for Art Walk. We do it on People's Street. But there's just limitations around kind of those dimensions. So we can revisit with traffic engineering and find out how tall would they have to be and how could we apply things at that height.
Okay, and I really do appreciate the amber lights. I think it's just also lends itself to, you know, the birding, you know, population. If we don't have like super bright lights, I mean, I know people, you know, want to see those bright lights, but for me, I think it works both ways. You can have beauty and you can have safety by having those type of lights. So just, you know, another idea. Let me see, the Water Street, when you say about the construction of Water Street, what, I don't remember, what is it that y'all are going to be doing?
So we set a vision called Water Street Reimagined, where we propose taking the shade cover on Water Street from currently 3% to 67%, utilizing the existing under-activated curbs. So we'd only, I think, lose like 15% of the parking spaces.
Okay.
And then adding on-site stormwater retention, because despite the fact that we have pump stations, there's still fill water backup that'll happen on Water Street. Because everything beyond Water Street is man-made, it slopes backwards, and so that's just kind of how gravity works. So we've set that vision. We have allocated, the underground utilities also have never been, and I say never, have not for a very long time, beyond patchwork, have not had an overall replacement. So that is being done through what's the term? Utility CIP? So in the CIP. And then these dollars are being used for the above-ground design in order to help utilize the above-ground space because it's completely inhospitable. 70% of the frontage is vacant, and we have 3 of our largest producing hotels right there where it's just unfriendly to walk around. So we're trying to upgrade that.
Like you say, and how is it again that you're going to create the 67% shading? Is that, I would imagine, trees?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
adding
so, and can you tell me approximately how many vacant buildings are still there? I mean.
Along Water Street specifically?
Well, yeah.
The problem with Water Street is not necessarily vacant buildings, it's vacant land. So we added a whole bunch of land, right, whenever Water Street was built out to shoreline, and some of that was maybe saw like warehouses, but was never really developed. And then you had these tall office buildings constructed that then sucked up a lot of demand. So it's just the development pattern is problematic. So that is the problem with Water Street. It's just the scale is very big and it's very filled with parking.
Yeah. Well, talk about parking. That is one of the ongoing issues that we have, as you know, with downtown, on Fridays, Art Walk. And I know that, I think y'all started the first time using RTA, right? And
yes, ma'am.
I've heard this, several times that people, stop going, even though I can see that it's actually growing, but maybe some of the older population, but hopefully we're going to be able to include RTA as part of our, collaboration, because I know during the Jazz Festival, the city will have the parking area where the RTA, where people can park in this area and then be taken to downtown. Is that something that's also going to be planned out? Or
Yes, so we've piloted a trolley for the first time that runs all the way from First United Methodist Church. They actually have programming on the first Friday, all the way up to the Art Museum that also has programming on the first Friday. So that's kind of the area that we're focused on right now. I know the mayor's been working with the RTA on an overall downtown system that will be beyond that first Friday, but we are piloting it. We have notes that we're going to go back to them with, and then we'll try that for the next couple of Fridays in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alyssa.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. Board Member Roy.
Thank you for your presentation. When we look at the lighting, one of the things that I would like to see is that it's contiguous in terms of the side streets, and really looking at, as we continue to develop that area, to make it more uniform. I think the Chaparral, we've done a great job. I think that now, as things start to expand, maybe we can look at the future of what our lighting is going to look like because I think it's important for people, as far as the side streets go, that they're well lit.
Sure, absolutely.
But I agree with Council or Board Member Campos in terms of making sure that the ambiance is there, and it's not, we're not sitting there with industrial lights so that when you step out of a building, you want to put your hands up and say, okay, get against the wall or something. But that ambiance in that downtown area, I think, is important. And I think as it continues to grow, that we need to make sure that in the future that we're looking at that so that it all looks the same,
Absolutely. We do have lighting level requirements, like a certain amount of foot candles. So whenever we're doing an exterior improvement projects, we require them to hit a certain number of foot candles.
Yeah. I'm talking more like the trees and that,
Yeah. Well, Chaparral Street, interestingly enough, is one of the few places that has that consistent tree canopy that we're able to put those lights on. So I don't know if we could recreate that exact experience, barring adding more trees, which is kind of difficult because we have concrete sidewalks. But we're definitely working on the frontage of the buildings to try to get them to be properly lit, so we don't have very, very dark spaces that are intimidating to pedestrians.
Yeah, I just think it's important to make it consistent and
Yes, sir.
and think of all the other small businesses and that are not on Chaparral to continue to do things to make them inviting for people.
Yes, sir.
So,
Absolutely.
all right, good job.
Okay. So then the next item we have is,
Hold on one second here. We got Board Member
Sorry,
Hernandez.
Thank you. I was wondering why I didn't understand what this thing with the lighting project was, and I went back and looked at the CIP page for this, for the 2023-24 CIP, and let me read you the description. This project consists of prioritizing lighting improvements along the north and south corridors of the downtown streets. That's all it says in the CIP. So I think we need to have a little bit more information with regards to what actually this involves, so we can have a good idea of what to expect. I was expecting regular street lighting, not some sort of lamp posts along the way. So if we can have some improvements on what this project is, that way we have a better understanding of it. And I don't know, does this fall under Public Works, under the Streets Department?
DMD is the one managing it, so, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it's in the street CIP.
Right, well, that's because it's a street-related project.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
DMD is the lead on it.
Well, honestly, I want to make sure Public Works is here because they're going to be the lead on this, and whatever that.
I think it's engineering.
Yeah, it hasn't been, it's not a Public Works project. It is because these are the decorative lights, not the street lights.
Okay, I understand that, right? But we don't want to do this kind of thing, right? It's either streets, it's engineering manages the projects and they hand it back to the streets, or is it going to be DMD managing this?
Well,
If we're going to have DMD, then I want a DMD section in this.
So no, it's not the DMD, because the DMD is not a part of the city. It's actually, it's managed through the Office of Economic Development in conjunction with Downtown Management District and Engineering.
Okay, so it's still a street item. It's because it still goes on streets. So I don't want this number, okay? Because then we're pointing fingers and nobody takes responsibility.
Sure.
So let's clarify that. If you need to add a section in the CIP saying who's responsible for it, if it's not in streets, then
We'll have, as Heather said, we're trying to take control, we're trying to take leadership on this project, so that's what we'll do for the next meeting.
Yeah.
It'll be a city project that engineering will take.
Yeah, we're working with engineering, yeah.
Because in the past, it hasn't been that. It's been DMD working with AEP Texas. And so we can easily have engineering take care of this project. So we'll do that for the next meeting.
okay, and then improve the CIP page.
We'll do that, Councilman, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Any other questions? Okay, Alyssa, Heather, before we move on, I think you heard a pretty strong message here about the lighting, and it's something that we need to do. We need to make this a priority. We've been hearing about it a long time. I remember way back a year or so ago, I even heard that did we get a grant from somebody to help us with the lighting, or did I misunderstand that?
No, I'm not aware of a grant, no.
Okay, all right. But we need to move this forward, and we can look at the type of lighting. If we don't want lamp posts, we can look at indirect lighting, those kinds of things, but we need to get this moving forward.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Alyssa, please continue.
Okay, so the next item that we have for discussion is downtown safety. So this is something that we focus on, right? Clean and safe is a core function of, or a really core element of having a vibrant downtown. If our downtown is not clean and safe, then people are not going to make investments otherwise. We have increased perceptions of safety from 42% in 2015 to 71% in 2023. But one of the things that we can't control is kind of the changing population of people coming and going from downtown. So we've been noticing some trends that are setting off some flags for us, and we want to make sure that we're not losing any ground in regards to revitalization. So San Antonio, Austin, Houston, and Fort Worth have some sort of downtown safety ambassador program. This is really in the nascent stages. We need to have conversations with PD to find out exactly what services need to be provided, if this is something that can be filled in with PD resources. But we would like to have this line item and introduce it as a topic, so that, you know, when we come back in July, we'll hopefully have all those details worked out with a really well-founded program. But because we're introducing the budget to you now, we wanted to introduce this item for discussion, for proposal. Okay. The next item we have is park sound installation.
Okay, we have a question? Yeah.
Yeah, just a quick comment. So thank you, and this goes back to the lighting. It's about public safety, but it's also about staying in front of it. So Alyssa, thank you for doing that, because with this item here, or downtown safety, you know, there are issues, but we don't want them to grow, and we want to address them. And I think it's very important that you stay informed. So, you know, have those conversations and look up best practices as you're doing.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yes, thank you. In the Fort Worth program, they have increased perceptions of safety to 95% during the day. I know we're not Fort Worth. Perceptions of safety, so 95% of people say that they feel safe during the day. So we know that having that around-the-clock presence elevates and increases that, which is what we aim to accomplish.
It's extremely important. Thanks.
The next item
Hold on one second.
Sorry.
Board Member Campos.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to, we had a brief conversation yesterday, no, wait, when was it, Friday? Or anyway, a couple of days.
At some point in time.
About this issue, and I had mentioned to you that, you know, about the cameras, you know. What would you say is the percentage of the businesses that have cameras in front of their business to offset, you know, some of the activities, you know, that are going on that maybe need to be addressed? Do we have that number? Because I know, you know, in neighborhoods, you know, a lot of people are, you know, buying and installing, you know, these cameras, and most of the time, whenever there's an issue that happens, the first thing that the policeman does is, hey, do you have a camera? Can we, you know? So what is your position, or what is your, how do you handle that? How do you?
Yeah. Yes. So Councilmember Campos is referring to, I think you visited Europe recently and you didn't see a lot of cops, but it's because the whole system is networked on a camera system. So they're there and they're monitoring, but they're not necessarily there in person. I'd say about 60 to 70% of downtown businesses have cameras on their store frontage. It's a program that we've had funded probably since 2017, 2018, where we help pay for half of that, as well as lighting through the TIRZ. And they make that available to PD. It's been used to solve a lot of crime. I think the biggest challenge that we have is there's still large vacant buildings. So we can have all the businesses with the cameras in front of them, you know, handling the 50 linear feet in front of the building. But if we don't have that, if there's then like a vacant building that's a whole block and none of that's covered, then we have a huge blind spot. So we're very much in support of, we think the cameras work well. It'd be nice to one day get an overall networked camera system. But in the meantime, we will work with what we got.
Yeah. So does the police department have a program like that, like especially downtown where it's very concentrated, that they would be able to install just a few more? I don't know. I guess there's cameras. Are there cameras now?
We have cameras, I believe. They're Wi-Fi enabled, and they're at the intersection stoplights. There's cameras along Shoreline, in the marina, and then we have attempted to put cameras in the parks, but we have to turn the electricity off to the parks sometimes. So there is a degree of that, and then we work with the PD to make sure that the cameras the businesses are installing are of appropriate grade so that they can be utilized later on if necessary to solve some sort of crime.
Okay, well, you know, you just mentioned about, you know, sometimes you have to turn the electricity off, but, you know, now we have the popularity of solar, you know, lighting that, you know, hopefully maybe we can start looking at it that way. And you're right. I was in our sister city a couple of weeks ago in Agen, and I said that. I said, I don't see any policemen. I mean, it's still, but it's 35,000 population. But so they told me, well, it's because we have cameras. I'm like, oh, okay. So, you know, that was just interesting to notice. So thank you for that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else? Yes. Board Member Hernandez.
Just real quickly on security, you had mentioned, Heather had mentioned earlier about bike patrol, and that we spend money on that. What does that entail?
So that entails mainly we program them mainly we program them on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights when there's larger volumes of people out, and they patrol the downtown area. But their schedule is about 7 to midnight is the coverage for that. So we have a gap.
And these are police officers?
These are off-duty police officers. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So is our challenge, do we need to add more police officers funded via the the Downtown Management District?
Well,
or
let me
TIRZ?
address that real quickly. Every week before the meeting, Alyssa, myself, and Board Member Roy meet to go over the agenda and make sure we're up to speed on everything. And we had a long discussion the other day about the security issues. Alyssa has made us aware of the fact that a number of downtown businesses have seen an increase in all kinds of activity that is not conducive to good business. And so we're going to move forward with that, and you're absolutely correct. There's additional funding is going to be needed for that.
Well, is it something that is responsible for the TIRZ or Downtown Management District, or is it something that is responsible for us as a city through our police department? Because obviously
Well, that's yet to be determined, but we are working on the issue.
So I think there has to be some conversations here, and I guess we need to circle back with Peter on this since he's walked out.
Councilman, we plan to bring that back to the board here at the appropriate time. We are working on it.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, I think I have 2 more slides. So just a park sound installation. So we spend a significant amount of resources activating the parks for the holidays. This is something that's a best practice in downtowns. It drives a lot of business activity. It creates a lot of positive memories for families and people growing up in Corpus Christi, as well as people who are visiting their family during the holiday time. It's a great way that we can show progress and care for our downtown area. I saw HEB is here. They help us with a 60-foot Christmas tree that we actually facilitate on behalf of the city. So we are looking to add sound to the parks in order to supplement some of the activity or some of the improvements that we put in the parks for the holidays. And then finally, we have on this list TIRZ are often used to fund public improvements that otherwise couldn't be funded based on general funds. So it's a focused way to reinvest in public spaces. This is, it's really great that we've facilitated enough economic activity that there's revenue that we can then now invest in the public right of way. So Taylor Street is now essentially the entrance to downtown after the detour that it was implemented by TxDOT. So it's in dire need of refurbishment. This is, whenever we entered through Twig, right after Peter arrived, we refinished that road because we recognized it wasn't necessarily the best condition, right, and the best front-facing street. So now we're recommending to do this same improvement to Taylor Street because now this is our front door with the detour. So these are the cost estimates we got from Streets, and we're excited to have this move forward. Awesome. That's all for me.
Okay.
Okay. Well, excuse me, Mr. Presley, Mr. Garza has his line on as well. Would you like me to recognize him first, or Ms. Guajardo? Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Just a general comment, talking about lighting, talking about cameras. I remember speaking to one lighting vendor that offered basically, I'm going to say, an all-solution point. We're going to push right now staff to go move forward. Let's do the lighting because we're talking about the lighting, but some communities have actually used the lighting and the cameras and done solution with the same thing. They put cameras where they put the lighting, street lighting, so that you have it done one time. You're not going to pay for the lighting and then later come back and pay for another firm, another engineering group or consultant to tell you where to put your cameras. So again, instead of demanding that we get an answer and we move forward with the lighting for next meeting, consider what your needs might be for cameras going forward. I agree with Councilman Roy's related to basically having uniformity and being consistent and everything else, but I also saw an example of a community, and it was when I visited Shanghai, where you had some lighting that was different in different smaller streets and stuff, and they actually had lighting that, and these lights are pretty, the ones that we have around the trees, but over there they had some lights that had either butterflies or birds incorporated into the lighting, string lighting type, that also added some value. So that would be something that if one of the smaller streets that have some small business might want to participate or contribute to in order to have something that sets them aside from the rest of downtown. Just a suggestion, just a thought.
Okay. Yes. Board Member Guajardo.
So, regarding the street, so kind of the same thing with public safety. I think the public safety aspect, we need to bring in the city, right, our police department, to talk about partnership in that, because it's part of the city. And you guys can work that out in terms of, how we work that out in terms of adding more. But streets, wouldn't that be the same thing, Heather? For example, I mean, do we exclude the downtown management in terms of street reconstruction? It's just like any other streets. Why is she doing the street is what I'm saying.
It's not that she's doing the street.
It's just the funding source.
Yeah.
We're doing the street. It's the city streets. So
What's the funding source?
The TIRZ.
The TIRZ.
Yeah, the TIRZ is the funding source.
That's my point.
Yeah.
So the TIRZ funds streets inside the TIRZ?
TIRZ is due,
Yes.
so take Whitecap, we're funding streets and
Yeah.
sidewalks on Whitecap with the TIRZ there.
With
So
TIRZ.
no difference here.
Yeah, if you look at, actually, if you look at TIRZ number 2 to TIRZ number 4, they primarily are focused on infrastructure, not business development.
Right.
While the downtown TIRZ has a large portion of it is focused on business development, it's also focused on infrastructure. We are using $750,000 for the Water Street design.
Right.
So we've already, that's something, but yes, it is something that we're not able to get to it within the streets program in the near future. And so this is an alternative funding source that we can utilize the TIRZ funding for.
Just making sure. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to real quickly mention, and we'll move forward. Were you through? Okay. Several years ago, and I know most of you probably have heard about this, the Bass family stepped forward and agreed to finance the redevelopment of downtown Fort Worth. And it was a huge project, and I went back and read about it, and they basically, the Bass family funded the upgrades and things that were needed in downtown Fort Worth, but they made a stipulation and an agreement with the city that the city had to provide two things: security and safety and walkability. The goal there was to make their downtown area very, very attractive, but very safe and well lit. And so that's kind of the key to success here as we go forward. So hopefully we can move that forward and get it going. So do we have anything else that we need? Anything else? Any other questions, comments? See?
Request, actually.
Okay, go ahead. I'm not in charge of the button, so somebody else
Looking
is.
for my green light. Alyssa, this is actually a request for you, maybe for the next meeting. Could you give us some information on like your sales tax numbers? I'd just like to see that. What's come in, I imagine they're also departmentalized to some degree. If you can give us some information on that, and also your visitorship downtown. Yeah, what comes from around town and out of town. Great, thanks.
Okay, there's no further comments or questions, no further business. We're adjourned.
Great job, Mr.